Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's Biblio-talk by PsyConnect Academy. I, Charu Gupta, along with my co-host Ayantika Sen, would like to take you on an exciting journey of learning the language of colors in nature. Allow me to introduce to you a very popular science book for all ages, Actually, Colors Speak.
Today, we will be speaking with the authors of this bestseller, Dr. Ipsa Jain and Dr. Minhaj Sirajuddin. Dr. Sirajuddin is a principal investigator at EMBO-YIP, Bangalore. His research currently focuses on the structure and function of cytoskeleton assemblies. Dr. Jain, a former biologist, is now a full-time science communicator and illustrator. So without further delay, let's welcome our guests and hear from them about their journeys and their bestseller book, Actually, Colors Speak. Welcome, Ipsa and Minhaj. Thank you for your time today. First of all, congratulations on your new book. And it's honestly a very nice way and a very wonderful way to introduce science of colors to the world. So we were wondering if you could tell us something about the book and what the readers can expect from it.
Okay, thanks for having us, Charu and Antika. And thank you, viewers from Biopatrika, for taking your time to listen to us. So the book is about color changes from the title, if you can see. But what the book title doesn't say is that the color changes happen deep inside animals. And we try to go across different scales to showcase what are the molecular and cellular changes that accompany that leads to the color change in animals. That's what we actually exteriorly see. So it's a visual treat which was made by Ipsa. All the illustrations were made by her. And we also have adapted a narration style which is going to be engaging. So I'm pretty sure like everyone, who has some interest in science will love this. So that's the book is about.
Just to build on what Minhaj is Minhaj shared, is that like book has certain features that apart there are illustrations, there is interesting stories that talk about biology across scale, and also an interesting conversational style. And apart from that, the book also has several QR codes sprinkled across, which lead our audience to open source content, which will hopefully further build their curiosity about the subject and details therein. The other interesting thing I think we try to do, or rather the hard thing we try to do, is stay away from jargon as much as possible. So we try to use a language both for our text and images that is hopefully more free and accessible.
So, Ipsa, maybe you can answer this first and then we can go to Minhaj. Why colors? Why not sounds or something else? What was your inspiration to go with colors?
I was thinking like an illustrator word. Colors is a visually interesting idea. If you're starting out as an illustrator, it's easy to represent colors and discuss colors, and it's also like you get to work with a very large color palette. But we have also considered working with other sensory modalities, and maybe that's something we can work on in the future. Yeah.
Yeah. Minhaj, what was your inspiration? Was it did you want to do something else, or was it colors for you from the beginning?
Well, no, actually what Ipsa is the first one to come to me and ask that, we should make something related to color. I don't know where she drew her inspiration from, but that was communicated to me very early on when she joined the lab. And I thought it was a very interesting concept. And then we started doing research. And then, that's how we narrowed it down to color. But the inspiration came from Ipsa.
No, I was just going to share the story of how I came to the idea of colors. Yeah. So I was just sitting with a botanist friend, and we were talking about a particular leaf that was just beside us and talking about plant colors. And then suddenly it hit me. So Minhaj had given me 1 day or I think 2 days to come up with some 4 themes that the book could be about. Minhaj doesn't remember this based on his reaction just now. And I was like, oh my God, I have to come up with themes. And it just so happened that, we were discussing plant currents. And then I was like, okay, I'm a zoologist by training. So I was like, yay, animal colors. That's something that I can think about and talk about and research about easily. And then I was like, I ran to his office and I was like, okay, animal colors. That's what we're going to do. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a little rare that, you go to a professor and you say that, oh yeah, so like the work in lab is different, but I find this topic really interesting. I want to write a book. And I mean, it's not a scientific book per se, as you say, it's not, it does contain a lot of scientific information, but it's from ages 10 to however long you can live. And, so I mean, hats off to Minhaj, really. Like, Minhaj, what were you thinking in that moment, when Ipsa came to you? Were you like, isko nikalo, this is not a good postdoc or something?
No, I think we will take one more step back.
Okay.
And let's start from the beginning. And the beginning is that I was inspired by one of my collaborators from France, Carsten Janker. And he actually had hired a PhD student to do science illustration about cell biology and all. And he was visiting us, and at the time we had some conversation, and one of my colleague actually suggested that, like, hey, there is a person in Bangalore, Ipsa, who does this kind of work already. Okay. And we called her, and me and Carsten just had a chat with her. And we started really like the way she also conducted herself, and was interesting to take it forward. And I offered Ipsa like the next day or so. In fact, like, she came to a meeting which we were attending, and she put a lot of initiative to come there and all. So I offered Ipsa that, like, hey, do you want to join us our lab? And she said, like, as what? I said, like, as postdoc. And she said, like, okay, do you want me to do wet lab? I said, like, no, we will make something interesting. I don't know what, but we'll make something interesting. And that was the beginning. So from the beginning itself, it was very clear what's the role of Ipsa would be. And immediately in a couple of days, we decided that after she joined, that, like, book is the media we will target. So yeah, that's the background about that. I think I've explained quite a bit on this, but yeah.
Yeah, so you already had that thing in your mind, and it was probably serendipity.
I mean, meeting was serendipity, but deciding to work together on a book was an active decision that we took from early on of our collaboration.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I think that really shaped out very well at the end. So
well, we like to think so.
I'm sure it did. It's a bestseller now. So Minhaj, you like being a principal investigator at STEM, how was your transition from being a PI to a book author? And what do you think about the journey? How hard was it?
It was not that hard, because I think, we took it as more as a fun journey. And there was no pressure from anywhere. There was no pressure from there's no funder who's telling us, there is no publisher who is telling us. In fact, like, I should give credit to my institution leadership. Like, when I talked about this often, either they did not like it, but they did not express it, or they were quietly encouraging it. But there was no pressure, absolutely no pressure for me or even for Ipsa to do this. This was probably one of the most pleasant experiences as a researcher I can think about.
That's really nice to have that sort of supportive environment, to like creatively express yourself. That is something like when in my time in NCBS also, I felt like, it's a collective, like there's an electricity there that you feel for different avenues. So Ipsa, I'd like to ask you, so, you started off this book when you were an academic biologist, and now you've shifted to becoming a science illustrator, and this is your career path. So was the book your push to say that I'm going to become an illustrator, or was the book your push or like, your stepping stone in this journey?
So I like to think that I was already working full-time as a freelancer when I joined Minhaj's lab and when we decided to work on the book. So I do think of it like as a step or as a, one other milestone in my journey. Yeah, I think book, of course, the outcome is also very, sort of important to me, but I think the journey was also very relevant. We just learned a whole lot while trying to make this work. We made a lot of mistakes, we made a lot of improvements, we got a lot of feedback. And just because of the time it took us to sort of start thinking about the book and being able to finish it, just because of other experiences we had and other interactions we had, the way we approached the book and the way we thought about our book, I think that also kind of evolved, and that was very useful. At least I personally think in shaping my ideas about what a science communicator or a science illustrator hopes to do. Yeah.
Great. So now that you're a full-time science illustrator, how different is your day now from what it was when you were a biologist?
I do think that I'm still a biologist, just not an actively practicing scientist. I still read biology or talk biology with other people, but my day differs a lot because it's not defined by the structure of being in a lab. The one thing that I miss is being able to regularly interact with biologists. Now I interact with biologists on a need-by-need basis, so I miss that sense of sort of being surrounded by peers and exchanging ideas with biologists. I do have, other illustrators and artists and science communicators I speak to, but there's no regular adda in that sense. But that may partly also be due to the pandemic. My work involves around reading, making, and a lot of coordinating and email exchanges. I really wish that there was someone else to take care of that logistics.
Soon.
Maybe. Yeah. That's the aim, like that's when I'll say I've arrived.
Absolutely. Swift tides to you.
So you did say that you miss interacting with fellow biologists. So just wondering if you miss bench work. Do you want to go back?
Absolutely not.
So Minhaj, you said that someone told you about Ipsa after you had this interaction with the French people, with the French scientists and how they were going about this. Was there another person also in mind, or would you have let's put it this way, would you have preferred someone other than Ipsa, or was she just the perfect match?
How would he know without having worked with anyone else?
Yeah, that's what I want to know. There were more people in the iteration.
There was no competition here. I don't think at that point of time anyone else was even doing this kind of work. Now there are like it's a good community now that people are thinking about illustration and science communication as a career choice. Mm-hmm. No, I think Ipsa is one of the first of their kind at that time. So yeah, there was no competition there.
Okay, one of a kind. She's a rare gem.
Right. Yes. So I remember you said that you also have in mind about exploring other, things in nature like sensory receptors or things like that. So what are the other books? Do you have any other books in mind, or there are other books lined up for the future?
It's too soon to really be talking about them. So maybe talk to us in 1.5 years or 2 years.
Okay. And any similar projects?
So I also work a lot with this book is also self-published, but I also work with a lot of self-published projects called zines, and I talk about zines a lot. Zines are essentially short magazines, which are free from editorialship, and it's a space for you to express your ideas any ways you like. So I am working towards a set of zines which aim to explore the area of public trust in science. So I'm using them both to provoke scientists to think about trust in science and also measuring the level of public trust in science. Yeah, so that's something I'm currently doing, and also trying to understand a little more qualitatively, like how people interpret images in textbooks. This is something I'm doing with Somadutta Karak, who also is a collaborator on the book. And one of the first studies we're discussing is what do people understand about atoms? Yeah, so that's kind of interesting projects that are self-initiated, and of course there's sort of commission work that goes around as well. Yeah.
Oh, great. Thanks for sharing. We'll be really looking forward to those projects.
So
Me too.
So now I'm going to ask you like rapid fire questions, and either of you can answer, and you just have to be really quick. Like there has to be just one word. Both of you can answer, and like whoever likes to go first can go. It just has to be really spontaneous. Don't think about the answer.
Okay.
So for you personally, and I know you shared the story of how the book began and everything, but whose final brainchild is the book?
It's a collective.
I think, yeah, it's collective.
It's a collective. Yes, I also feel, looking at the book and everything, I think it's a collective effort. I think it's just a beautiful inculcation of science and illustration and the right opportunity, the right people. So was this a version you compromised on, or was this always the one you envisioned?
Yes, we compromised.
Okay.
I use the word calibrated more than compromised,
Okay.
Yeah.
So your favorite, magnifying glass, microscope, or binoculars?
Binocular.
Binocular is everyone's favorite, and we've heard it. I mean, I've heard it from so many other people also that somehow binocular is their favorite. And I think you have to read the book to understand why. So I'm just like
absolutely. So those who are wondering why these three random objects, read the book.
Right.
So
totally.
Yeah. What was the easier bit for you? Conceptualization, writing, or illustrating?
Illustrating.
Conceptualizing was easy.
That was interesting.
So for both of you, a non-science career you would happily jump into. So completely no science.
Writing.
Okay.
I mean, something like a bookseller or a book reader or a librarian, maybe.
Okay.
Great.
Thank you for playing that.
Okay.
I never had to think about that.
Sorry?
I never had to think about that, like non-science career.
Oh, I had to think about that all the time, because of the work.
I think I can hear you, Minhaj, on that. Well, that was a very interesting rapid fire. And my last question to both of you, do you have any messages for scientists who are wanting to break the academic bubble and, try out something creative in science?
My first advice is really just to talk to people who are not scientists. I mean, I understand why, but we tend to talk to other scientists. We spend most of our time speaking to other scientists or scientists in training. And the other really is our families. I think we need to find ways to hear, understand the work of other creatives and build bridges with them. I think that helps.
What about you, Minhaj?
I think if you're a scientist and thinking that what I'm going to do and how we are going to do, that's already a good start. That's what I was doing for many years. Just jump on. I mean, there is nothing crazy in what you can do. So everything is acceptable within the boundaries of what you can do in science. So nothing is crazy. So if you have something interesting, just go for it.
Great.
I think
Thank
that's
you
great
very
advice.
much.
I think that's also like something which is so brave that you both did, because I know that now, as Minhaj mentioned, many people are into science communication, and this thing is picking up. But I mean, Minhaj, you and Ipsa had some sort of support, but for several others, who want to kind of jump into it, there's always like, you need to be brave, I think, for all these things. And there's also this love of, that's why we asked Ipsa the bench work question. There's always this love of doing bench work that some scientists have ingrained. So yeah.
I mean, we didn't talk about this, but like Minhaj and I, including the French collaborators, we ended up doing like a project which involved drawing, and which led to sort of, new ideas and hypotheses in the field in some sense. So like this idea that like lab work is the only way to, make progress in science is also something that maybe one can think about challenging. There are a lot of people who are approaching science through, multidisciplinary and transdisciplinary perspectives, which necessarily does not involve liquid transfer specialization.
You're changing my whole world, Ipsa. You're changing my whole world.
Yeah, I also think, especially Minhaj, you have your own lab, you're a PI. A lot of people have progressed to that stage in their science career, but somewhere deep down, they've always wanted to do something creative, which for multiple practical reasons, they may not have had the opportunity. So I think you have really set a very good example for everybody here, and inspiration that, hey, it's never late. Just whenever you can, jump onto the bandwagon and get started with what you like to do. And, there's always scope for that. So thank you so much to both of you for, talking about the book, your journeys, and inspiring our listeners to pursue what they've always dreamt of. And we really appreciate you spending time with us today. And to our listeners, you can order the book on all major platforms like Amazon or Notion Press. And the ebook version is also available on Kindle and Google Books. And remember, this book is filled with colors, scientific illustrations, conversations, and QR codes and whatnot, anything that would really make you want for more books from both Ipsa and Minhaj in the future. And I think it's a great gift for people of all ages. So keep that in mind.
Yeah, and I mean, for the ones who want a little bit of a look-see before buying it, because you're going to want to, Color Speak is also available at the May 2022 Delhi Book Fair. And for our international audience, the book can be shipped to you via Amazon. So please check your country's website. And if you've read it, if you've seen it, if you've clicked a picture with it, let us know what you think. You can also contact Ipsa and Minhaj. Their contact informations will be in the description of this video, audio, whatever you're listening to. So happy reading. Thank you.
Thanks for
having us. And and it was absolute pleasure to talk about the book. And so for viewers, this is how the book will look. QR code. So yeah, go for it.
Great. Thank you so much for actually bringing a copy of the book, Ipsa.